I love Texas barbecue. I think it's the best form of barbecue out there. I know I am standing in the heart of Central Texas and I am preaching to the choir. But let me just remind you why Texas barbecue is the superior form of barbecue to all, the Carolina barbecues or the Memphis barbecue or Kansas City or St. Louis, whatever. Texas is the best. It's not just because it tastes the best, although it does. And it's not just because it's from Texas, but it is. It has those things working in its favor. But it is the best because it is the simplest. All you need to do good Texas barbecue is a brisket, some salt, some pepper, and some post oak smoke. You can get post oak anywhere. You can get briskets anywhere. It's a cheap cut of meat. Salt and pepper, they're literally the most fundamental ingredients that exist. And yet, there is nothing remarkable about Texas barbecue when you look at the ingredients. It's not about innovation. Texas barbecue isn't about making the newest, greatest, best, most flashy concoction. It's about utilization. It's not about innovation, it's about utilization. It's about rightly utilizing the things that you are given. You're given a cheap piece of meat, you're given a lot of time, you're given an abundance of oak, you're given the simplest spices. And over time, with patience, knowing how to apply and put those things together, through consistency, and through working with simple ingredients, you are able to achieve the best daggum barbecue in the entire world. Now look, I know I'm hungry already. I know y'all are probably getting hungry already, but Texas barbecue is a lot like life. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. You see, pitmasters are open books about all of their craft and their trade because they know that they don't have any secrets. It's all about how they do it. It's all about the execution. And that's what life is like. Life is not about what you have at the end of the day. It's not about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have. You see, we're all given time, some level of resources. We're all given all of the things that we have. We all have things. We all have clothes on. We all have basic things of life. We all have them to varying degrees. But the thing that matters is not what you are given, but how you utilize the things that you are given. Life, like Texas barbecue, is simple, and it's about utilizing and enjoying the good gifts that God gives us. Life is not about the accumulation of the things that we strive after, like power, wealth, possessions, honor, or wisdom. It's about the enjoyment of God's good gifts of authority, wealth, possessions, honor, and wisdom. We're all given some measure of all of those things. So it's not about if you have them. It's about how are you going to use the lot that has been allocated to you. The goal of life, this is the main point. If you're taking notes, write this down. The main point is that the goal of life is not to amass all that you can, but to enjoy all that you can to the glory of God. The goal of life is not to amass much, but to enjoy much to the glory of God. One last time, the goal of life is not to amass much, but to enjoy much to the glory of God. Simple as that. Life is not about hoarding, but enjoying. We're going to go through this text through 2 points. We're going to go about it more topically rather than going through it line by line. So we're going to talk about the grievous evil of misusing power, wealth, possessions, honor, and wisdom. So point one is the grievous evil of misusing and abusing power, wealth, possessions, honor, and wisdom. Then the second point is going to be about enjoying God's good gifts of power, wealth, possessions, honor, and wisdom. Second point will be about enjoying God's gifts. As we jump into the text, we're going to start with chapter 5, verse 8. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for every land, for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. I don't know about you, but I am so glad that last year is over. That November is finally behind us. That the first 100 days of the new president's reign is finally behind us. Because I cannot stand politics, government, or bureaucracy. This really has nothing to do with Trump or Biden. This doesn't have anything to do with who the president is. It's just the nature of government. Government is necessarily bureaucratic by nature. Politics are necessarily convoluted by nature. And here in the text, it says, if you see mishandling of abuse and authority, don't be surprised. So don't be surprised that all the solutions that we were promised have not been delivered yet. It's their nature. Politics is complicated. It takes time, and you've got broken, sinful people running a broken system. It's complicated. So we see that there's a complicated dual nature to government. That it exists simultaneously in a fallen reality and with a reputation of collusion and corruption. And yet, on the other hand, it's established by God. Isn't that crazy that this thing that can be so oppressive at times if it's used really poorly and still not perfect when it's used at its best? No matter which form, no matter which kind of government, what's a great government or a poor government, they are all contradictory. They all are broken and fallen, and yet they are all still put in place by God for the good of the people, for the purpose of restraining evil and maintaining a society that can flourish. See, I want you to see government for what I think the preacher and I today both want you to see government for truly what it is. It's complicated. Don't put your hope in it. Power and authority will not save. It's not the answer to life. Instead, use your Christian worldview to understand politics. Don't be led blindly all over the place by whatever the latest news reporter is going to tell you to think or the next influencer is going to tell you to believe. Use your Christian worldview to understand politics and to understand the complicated nature of it. And then the preacher moves on, verses 10 and 13 and 14, to talk about the grievous evil of abusing wealth and possessions. You see, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. You see, the preacher is preaching to the choir, because I think we all know that with money, you can never get enough, and that it will always run out. No matter how much you get, you can lose it all. It's every other week you hear about the person who won the lottery and they won all these millions of dollars, and then how a year later they are left and they've blown all of the money. Or yet, Maybe they actually saved it and they were wise to try to invest it, but then their investment goes upside down and they still lose it all. The wise person and the foolish person, they both lose it all in the end. It's bad to endlessly chase wealth, like a dog chasing a car, who wouldn't know what to do with it once it got it. But it's worse to achieve all of it and then to waste it or lose it all. It's better instead to utilize and to steward all that God gives you instead of trying to keep and hoard all that you can. Do you know any hoarders? Any person who's just obsessed with amassing something? Maybe they call themselves a collector. Maybe it's a obvious obsession that is obvious to everyone around them, but to them, they just see it completely rationally. And yet everybody else is looking at it and like, what you are keeping is worthless. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's not helping you out. It's irrational. It's unhealthy. It's harmful. We can easily deceive ourselves in that what we are doing is, what we're collecting for ourselves is, for the good of us and those around us. But oftentimes, if we're honest with ourselves, we can see that we have tendencies to hoard, to protect, and to not give or steward the good things that God gives us. And this, too, is vanity, a grievous evil. And he naturally goes on from wealth to possessions. And there is a second thing. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. Man, I understood this when I was like 10 years old or maybe even younger. If you ever went to school with a pack of gum in your pocket, you could just about bet that you were not going home if you pulled that thing out in public. What would always happen is you'd go to school with this huge pack of gum, 20 pieces in there, and you're like, oh man, I've got gum for days. And then you pull out those riches, and all the eyes around you light up, and suddenly everybody has bad breath, and they've got to have a piece. Please, just one piece. I'll split it with Jimmy over there. Just give me some, please. When goods abound, so do all of the mouths who want to feed on it, I promise. Anyone who's ever been given a gift of money knows this. Anybody who's ever been a good gift of really anything knows this. Money has no inherent value in and of itself. Have you ever thought about that? Like the dollar, the fabric, the paper fabric that you have that's called a dollar bill, doesn't actually, it's not worth anything. It's all representative. You see, it functions with a derivative value, meaning that its value is not innate to itself, but it lies instead, the value of it lies instead in what it can attain or provide for you. And that is possessions. And so maybe you are not obsessed with your wallet or your savings, but maybe you're obsessed instead with the things that money and wealth can provide for you. You get locked in on the tangible things. You see, in verse 12, he points out that sweet is the sleep of the laborer, whether he eats little or much, but full is the stomach of the rich. But the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. It is better to be, what he's saying is, it is better to be the slave that has little and is able to enjoy all the little that he has, than to be the owner who has everything but can't sleep or rest because he's constantly chasing and hoarding and protecting and guarding everything that he has. A country music singer by the name of Aaron Watson put it this way one time: I'd rather be an old fence post in Texas than the king of Tennessee. You see, for him, it would be better to be faithful to what the little that he has and to protect his integrity in Texas and be just an old fence post that no one ever notices or pays any attention to, than to get to have all that Nashville would promise and provide him and yet have to compromise everything that he owns. Well, like him, I want to tell you that it is better to be the lowest, most measly servant in heaven than it is to be the King of Kings in hell. It is better to sleep soundly with no savings than to not be able to sleep with all of the money in the world. You can't take wealth or these possessions with you whenever you die. The problem with heaven is that your wallet gets checked at the gate. It can't get you there, but once you get there, it's worthless. You don't need it. God provides everything you need. It can't get you there, and you won't need it whenever you get there. The same is true with honor. Vanity. This is a grievous evil. Look at verses 3 through 6 with me. I prefer a different translation that makes it a little bit easier for my West Texas ears to understand. He says, even if a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, even if he lives a long, long time, but cannot enjoy his prosperity, even if he were to live for forever, I would say that a stillborn child is better off than he is. Though the stillborn child came into the world for no reason and departed into darkness, though its name is shrouded in darkness, though it never saw the light of day nor knew anything, yet it has more rest than that man if he should live 1,000 years twice, yet does not enjoy his prosperity, for both of them die. This is a radical picture. It's better to be a stillborn child and to not get to experience anything than to get everything that there is to get in the world and to not enjoy it. Isn't that wild? You know, and don't get me wrong, parenting is amazing. I'm pretty new to it still. I'm only 2 years in, but let me tell you, parenting is amazing. So, you know, I got told a lot before you become parent, man, parenting is tough. And it is. It's even tougher than they make it out to be. But man, there's nothing like a sweet 2-year-old girl wrapping her arms around you whenever you get home from work. Literally, Ellie gets her and May and Weston to meet me out on the porch whenever I come home from work. And there's that 2-year-old little girl who can't hardly say anything, but she can say, da, 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 da. She's so excited for me to come home, and I come, and she leaps off the steps in faith that I'm just going to pick her up and grab her. It's amazing. It is the sweetest thing next to marriage that exists in life. I mean, we could talk about marriage, about how sweet marriage is, but yet it is still better to be a stillborn child, to not get to enjoy anything, than to have everything and to lose it all. It's better to not live but a second or two than to live several lifetime overs and not get to enjoy everything that is in life. My grandma believe she's turning 94 in a couple weeks ago. She has lived the life. I mean, anyone would want to live the life that she has lived. She has been to every continent except Antarctica, and that was just because my uncle didn't want to go with her. She was willing to go, I promise. She has been everywhere and been there twice. Her and my grandpa drove a motorhome to Alaska 3 times. Can you believe that? I mean, she's been to Africa for her 80th birthday. My grandpa had already passed. She gifted herself an African safari where she was hanging out, petting cheetahs and riding elephants at 80 years old. I mean, the things that this woman experienced in her life. She had 3 kids who all live in the same town as her. They all came back to their hometown. She got to see all of her grandkids raised in the same town as her. She saw the Great Depression, lived through the Dust Bowl, and has now seen everything that we see today. She has experienced more than almost any person I know, and experienced like awesome stuff. And yet, if she got all of those things and didn't get to enjoy them, it would have been better if she would have just been a stillborn child. That is how important utilizing and enjoying God's gifts are for us. I don't mean to be insensitive, but we have to talk about these tough things. It is better to live and die and to not experience all the pains of life than to live and experience all the grief and sin in life and not get to enjoy any of God's good gifts. And so finally we may ask, well, what about wisdom? You know, this is all about wisdom. Surely meaning is found in wisdom. It is better to be content with what the eyes can see than for one's heart to always crave more. This continual longing is futile. It's like chasing after the wind. At the end of the day, we work in order to eat. But it really doesn't matter at the end of the day if you're the smartest, wealthiest, most wise, most powerful person in the world, because at the end of the day, we all work to live, to eat, drink, love, and to live a happy life. Your cravings have the potential to curse you. Your desires have the potential to destroy you if you let them run unchecked, if you let them be like chasing after the wind. To be content with little is better than to be insatiable with much. And you might as well be content, because look at verses 10 and 12. They show us that our fate is foreknown and foreordained by God. So you better get used to whatever God has provided you. Stop chasing after what God hasn't provided you and enjoy what God has provided you. You see, you can't bargain with God. You can't change the lot that you've been given. You can steward all that you've been given, and you can use it, and you can multiply it and expound it, or you can waste it. But at the end of the day, you can't bargain with God. You see, this is the grievous evil that the preacher is talking about. The worst thing this side of eternity is to waste all of God's good gifts that he gives to you. To not enjoy all of the many gifts and blessings that he's given to you. I'm sure you've heard this story many times over and seen it many times over. A man makes everything, leaves it all to his kids, and the kids squander and lose it all. That is vanity. It's a grievous evil. The ESV translate it as, this is vanity. It is a grievous evil. But the KJV translates it as, this is vanity and it is an evil disease. It's deep. It's sick. It's heinous. The NET translates it as, this is fruitless and a grave misfortune. This is the worst thing that can happen. And the NASB translates it as, this is vanity and a severe affliction. It's pretty simple. The things that God has given you to bless you, if you don't let them be a blessing and enjoy them, then they will end up being a curse. They'll be a disease. They'll actually do the opposite of what they were given to do. You see, the goal of life is not to amass much, but to enjoy much to the glory of God. It's as simple as that. Life is not about hoarding, but enjoying. So let's stop talking about the hoarding. You see, I know y'all have already talked about power, wealth, possessions, honor, and wisdom before. But the preacher, I think, runs through them all again to bring them all together and say, hey, look, don't forget these things. He brings them all like five or six different strands together into one rope. And he says, look, all of life is vanity if you don't live. And so let's figure out how we live and enjoy God's good gifts. We ran across 22 different verses that talk about the misuse and abuse of all of these good gifts, and yet the preacher gives us the bottom line. Enjoying God's gifts is summed up in 3 verses. Look at chapter 5, verses 18 through 20 with me. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth, possessions, and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with the joy in his heart. I want to give you three principles of how to enjoy God's good gifts that he gives us. They all start with a P. I'm a student of Michael. I learned to alliterate while I was under him. Perspective, practice, and presence. Perspective, practice, and presence. These are the 3 keys to enjoying God's good gifts. You got to have the right perspective. You've got to have the right perspective on your toil in your life and your work. You've got to learn to embrace the struggle and to enjoy the gifts. But this perspective has to be practiced. You see, you've actually, like a kid on Christmas, got to play with the presents that you were given. It's not enough to just see them as the good gift that was given to you by your parents, but you've actually got to rip open the paper. You've got to bust open that box. You've got to get that Hot Wheel out, and you got to run it all over the living room. You've got to practice and play with the good gifts that God has given you. You see, all of these things, all the good gifts that God gives are for your enjoyment, for your good. They're meant to be used. A car is meant to be driven. A gift is meant to be enjoyed. The things that God has blessed you with, he has meant for your enjoyment. So you've got to have the right perspective. You've got to have a good practice. You got to actually use it. And then you've got to have the right presence. You've got to be present. You can't be like Mary and Martha, the one who enjoys God's presence and the one who is so caught up that she can't even sit when God is sitting in her living room. You see, God describes, through the preacher, describes that God will keep you occupied with so much joy that you won't even consider, you won't even remember much the days of his life. Look at verse 20. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. The picture here is someone who doesn't even remember what day it is because he's just so swept up having the time of his life. The goal of life is not to amass much, but to enjoy much to the glory of God. But now it's time for the Christian part of the sermon. You know, everything that I've said so far, for the most part, is generally true for Christians and non-Christians. You know, non-Christians can actually practice gratitude. I mean, whole books by non-Christians are written about gratitude. Gratitude is not a unique Christian virtue. But instead, the gratitude that they practice will be an impersonal and idolatrous gratitude that worships the creation instead of the creator, worships the gift rather than the giver. And that ultimately condemns them. Only a Christian can practice to the fullness godly gratitude with an eternal security. You see, there's a difference between the non-Christian's ignorant, bliss-filled gratitude and the Christian's God's conscious, faith-filled gratitude. Christians are different from even the preacher because we have been given the Holy Spirit and we have been given the Christian church. You know, the church exists for Christians. It exists to help each other along the way from the point that we get saved to the point that we get to see salvation fully realized. You see, the church is actually in the business of helping you enjoy all of the good gifts that God has given you. You have a responsibility to each other. You get to help recognize the good gifts that God has given your neighbor that's sitting next to you right now. You have been given the opportunity to get to recognize them and point out, man, look at this good gift that God has given you. How about we enjoy it together? And if you have been the one who've been given the gifts, well, you get the joy of giving and letting others enjoy it with you. I love a good, classic white birthday cake. But here's the thing. I can't eat it on my own. And it's a lot more enjoyable, again, to see a 2-year-old and a wife that I love sitting right next to me, chowing down, enjoying it right there with me. The writer of Ecclesiastes seems to think that it is only by the grace of God that we can enjoy anything at all. We call this common grace. All people are given some measure of these things. But how much more if the non-Christian can practice some level of gratitude? How much more can the Christian who knows the very giver of all of these gifts delight and enjoy and express gratitude and worship to the giver? How much more do we get to experience this than the non-Christian? You see, the whole gospel can be viewed through this lens of rightly enjoying God's good gifts. God created man to worship and to enjoy him through enjoying it. God created man to worship and enjoy him through enjoying the good gifts that God gave him. I mean, that's what Adam and Eve were given. They were placed in a garden with everything that they need. And God created them to enjoy it, to be fruitful and to multiply. And yet man introduced sin by attempting to enjoy the one thing that God had forbidden him. Can you believe that? Adam and Eve literally had the whole world. They had everything except for one thing. And yet the whole world still wasn't enough. They still felt that God might be hiding something from them in that one thing that he had forbidden. And so we see that sin gets introduced by attempting to enjoy the one thing that God prohibited. But Christ came so that we could live at peace with God again through Jesus' perfect life of enjoying God and God's creation on our behalf. And now God is giving everyone a chance to respond, to repent of your abuse and misuse of his good gifts, to repent and believe in him so that you can better enjoy the gifts of God that he has given you. That's the gospel. The goal of life is not to amass much, but to enjoy much to the glory of God. You see, we have even better news than the Old Testament believers did, because we fear God because he has judged Christ on our behalf, so we can enjoy a new life. Before Christ, we had been given the opportunity to enjoy these gifts, but we had not been given the ability to enjoy these gifts to the fullest. Now, through Christ, we have been given that opportunity and ability both to enjoy life, because Christ took care of our greatest problem of abusing and misusing God's good gifts. Now, he provides you the opportunity to enjoy these good gifts to the fullest, now and for eternity. Now, before we finish, I want to consider three people who we shouldn't be like, and two people who we should emulate. How do we do this? How do we put this into practice? Well, I don't want you to be like Adam and Eve. They didn't enjoy the freedom, but instead they chased after that one thing that they couldn't get. I don't want you to be like the Israelites in the wilderness. Think about it. They had the presence of God once again with them. They had just been redeemed from being slaves. They had been taken out, and they were no longer under oppression. They had been given, literally from the sky, everything that they needed every day. They didn't have to worry about cooking. They didn't have to worry about cleaning up. They didn't have to worry about where their food would come from. It literally just appeared every day. Can you believe that? Can you imagine? Parents, moms especially, probably, unless you're the cooking dad like me. Imagine if you never had to worry about cooking again. All 3 meals every day were figured out. They were planned out. They were set out perfect for you. And you were able to just enjoy and delight them. But yet, what do? They grumble, they complain. They had everything. And yet it wasn't enough. Think about David. He was king of Israel. He had everything he could ever want or imagine. Think about Solomon. His son, even had even more wealth and possessions. And yet they both went after the one thing that they couldn't have, another man's wife. For Solomon, it was just wives in general. He just couldn't stop. It was such a problem that it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Their appetites were truly insatiable. But instead, I want you to consider Job. Job had everything and then lost everything. And he was able to say in Job 1:21 through 22, after he lost everything, he had everything and he lost it. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. Listen, this is the key part. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. Whether he had everything or he had nothing, he had resolved in his mind that no matter what, he was going to worship God, and he was going to enjoy everything that God had given him. Lastly, I want you to be like Jesus. Jesus was our model of rightly enjoying and stewarding all of God's good gifts. He showed us he modeled for us how to steward power and authority. Think about it. He was the creator of the world, and yet he entered into fallen creation. He had all of authority in the universe vested in him, and yet he still paid his taxes and obeyed the common laws. He was the author of life, and yet suffered a gruesome death. He knew more than anyone in the fallen and sinful depravity of men, but yet was still hung by the fallen sinful depravity of man who hung him on the cross. And yet he still said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Consider how Jesus stewarded his wealth and possessions. The earth and the fullness thereof is all his. And yet he was homeless for 3 years of his life. Can you believe that? He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and yet he became a poor carpenter's son. To him belongs everything in the heavens and the earth, and yet he suffered. All the gold and all the silver in the world belongs to him and is owed to him, and yet he rendered unto Caesar what was his due portion. Consider how Jesus stewarded the honor that was given him. He is deserving of all honor, glory, and majesty, and yet he got down and washed his own disciples' feet. He was owed all of the honor and exaltation in the world, and yet he was paid in humiliation and crucifixion. All the glory belongs to him, yet he was mocked, taunted, ridiculed, scorned, derided, insulted, sneered, and jeered at. He deserved to be recognized and received as king over the whole earth, of which he is, and the giver of life. Yet he was nailed to a cross next to a couple thieves. Consider how Jesus stewarded the wisdom that he was given. He holds all knowledge, all wisdom, all understanding of everything, everywhere, at all times. And yet he bore patiently with people just like me and you. He is the only wise, yet he was questioned as if he was not actually omniscient. He is the author and giver of all wisdom, yet all turned against him and went astray, thinking that they knew better than him. Be like Jesus, who was perfectly content with his lot every day of his life that he lived, all the while knowing that the cross was in his future. He was the chief and model example of joyful stewardship of all of God's good gifts. I mean, listen to what we just read earlier. He teaches us how to enjoy all these things. He says, don't be anxious about your life or what you will eat or what you will drink or about the body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds, look at the flowers, look at the fields, how God provides them. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added to you. You need to have the right perspective, the right practice, and you need to be present. See, I have a restaurant that I like down in Austin. It's called Diadui. They are not obsessed with trying to create the next greatest, best recipe. Instead, they're trying to do something different. You see, they don't know what they're going to be cooking next week. They go to the farmers markets in Austin and they buy everything that they can only from the state of Texas. And so whatever is in season, whatever is given to them that day, they take with them. They go to their restaurant and they write out the menu for the next week. They don't chase after the things that aren't there, local to them. They just say, whatever the land produces, we're going to utilize and we're going to figure out how to make it work. I know for a fact that they aren't Christians, but they are certainly onto something there. Being content with whatever God has brought your way and trusting him that it is all for your good. The goal of life is not to amass much, but to enjoy much to the glory of God.